Mere Conservatism.
David Perry, and I'm Cleve Walker, and once again, Mere Conservatism is on the way. Hey, David.
Hey, Cleve. Good to see you. And look, the way we view the world is very important. Our philosophy, the Judeo-Christian worldview, is under attack.
Like never before.
It is being attacked, and people want to overthrow it. They want to get rid of it.
Yeah.
And so I don't know about you, but I feel like sometimes that my way of viewing the world is very, very, very much under fire. Do you feel that way?
Oh, man. Well, to play devil's advocate for a second here, there are some Christians who are of the progressive persuasions who would tell you their understanding of the scriptures is why they are liberal. So they'll say, my faith informs me that this is the way to go and not the way that David just described. However, I guarantee you, ultimately, what this bunch is after, and this bunch, I mean the people who are in control right now of all the stations of government, ultimately comes down to depriving people of faith of the ability to freely share their faith. Ultimately, it comes down to canceling not just children's books and movies, but eventually canceling the Bible itself. Yeah. I'm just telling you.
Oh yeah.
I'm
surprised that the Bible is still for sale on Amazon. and Cleve, I think that
you're laughing. I'm laughing, but you might have a point.
Well, I think the left spat this week with the Catholic Church is an example of this. So, newsflash: the Catholic Church, they're Catholics. I don't know if you knew that.
Yeah, it kind of dawned on me.
They have been for thousands of years, and they have certain values. Now, I disagree with the current Pope and his view of the social structure of the way the social structure of the world should be. He's more of a socialist kind of person.
Which is why I'm kind of shocked at what happened.
He is more. He is very much social justice oriented, kind of. Those are political differences. When it comes to things like gay marriage and abortion, he's holding the line on Catholic teachings, and of course you would expect him to do that. And see, this is one difference that you can see sometimes with liberal, quote unquote, Christians who might like higher taxes. They might like a higher social safety net. They want the government to be more involved. See, I'm not for that because I think the government does a bad job and actually ends up hurting us and our ability to live out our faith and things like that. But some people think that more government is good. But when it comes to moral issues like abortion and gay marriage and things like that, you would think that Christians on both sides of the aisle would still realize that there are certain Christian doctrines that are blatantly biblical.
Non-negotiable, yeah.
Higher taxes is not one of those things. No. If you like higher taxes, I disagree with you. I think that's a bad idea, but that's not a faith issue. The gay marriage, or specifically sexual immorality, I should broaden it out to that, and abortion and things like that is a little different. I mean, you can clearly see the moral issue with Christianity and those agenda items not matching up. Joe Biden apparently, though, is a devout Catholic, even though he is okay with abortion and okay with gay marriage. Here's the problem. He is trying to get God and the Catholic Church to adapt to him and what he believes.
So are all the progressive Catholics,
yes.
Not just
to Joe. He's God.
Yeah.
Ultimately, and it's idolatry.
I'm going to make a statement real quick on this because I want to go to our first topic in just a second. The statement that was released, the official statement by the Catholic Church, ergo the Pope, about gay marriage, when he said we welcome and feel inclusive about gay people, being in the church, he says we cannot countenance gay marriage, but because we cannot bless sin. That statement was more emphatic and, to me, more truthful of the situation than anything I've heard out of the Protestant church in a long, long time. Most evangelicals are bending over backwards to accommodate
gay
they
don't
people.
Want to say something like that.
But to say, I can't bless sin, when I heard that, I said, gosh. Would that were heard in Protestant circles more often?
Well, because in our culture, one thing that they're doing in our culture is they are successfully making your sin who you are.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or your problems or your
imperfections. Yes.
Yeah. So in other words, the Pope is saying, if you are homosexual, you have those desires, we want you to come to church, we want you to be in our church. But, sexual relations like that aren't okay. They're sinful. The Bible says so, and we believe that. And so, and by the way, it's not about love. It's not about who you love. People talk about that all the time. It's not about who you love. It's about who you have sex with, to be very frank, okay?
Yeah, to be pretty graphic.
And so, yes, everybody come to church. We want you to love God and learn about God and realize, be convicted and repent and serve Him. But we're not going to tell you that it's okay.
So we say kudos to the Catholic Church. Here we are, evangelicals, David and I, Protestant evangelicals, Baptist background, and we say, hey, guys, in the Catholic Church, we're happy you took a stand on this issue.
And you know what? I might even do one of those funny little cross things over my chest with my two fingers.
Okay.
What is that?
A genuflecting.
A genuflect? Is that what you call it?
Yeah. Well, at any rate, before we get off the subject, we were talking about something else off mic, David. The House Judiciary Subcommittee on the Constitution, Civil Rights, and Civil Liberties held a hearing on, of all things, discrimination and violence toward Asian Americans. Now, all this comes after that gunman shot and killed 8 people, and 6 of whom were Asian American women at 3 massage parlors in Atlanta. Chairman and Tennessee Democratic Congressman Steve Cohen assures Asian Americans that they have the support of the federal government against this violence.
For many Asian Americans, Tuesday's shocking events felt like the inevitable culmination of a year in which there were nearly 3,800 reported incidents of anti-Asian hate incidents that grew increasingly more violent over time as the COVID-19 pandemic worsened, and some people wrongly blamed Asian Americans.
Okay, now, I got to tell you, I was not aware of this as far as this being a thing. All of a sudden, Asian Americans are seen as the target of violence. And I'll tell you right now, I'm just throw it out to what this is all about, and I want your take on it, of course. What this is all about is it's a further effort to tag Trump and the GOP and anybody related to Trump with this thing that, this comes from Trump calling the virus the Chinese flu. This comes from Trump speaking so badly about the Chinese. It's now translating to the way Asians are impacted in this country. And so,
honestly, Cleve, it's really probably because of Dr. Seuss.
So you see my point. In other words, they need to show the other side, meaning us, that we are against everything, particularly white supremacists, are against every group. And so now they're making a pitch to Asian Americans. See, I don't know. You're going to have to come over on our side now because you're not safe.
Yeah.
Without us interdicting. In this
obviously,
situation.
it's wrong. It's wrong to be violent against anybody.
Yeah.
And it's certainly wrong to hate somebody or do something to somebody because of their race. Obviously, that's
I don't believe
that's
this is happening. But go on.
You don't think that those stats are legit?
No, the stats are legit in the sense that they're there, but those were not proven to be so-called hate crimes against Asians. A lot of Asians and a lot of people are involved in crimes where they're hurt and killed, but there's no proof the motive was what they're saying.
So I just wanted to say that, but obviously that's not good. But it's funny because I've heard recently that some of these anti-racist people, these anti-racist philosophers, have decided that Asians are categorically white. Have you heard that?
No, this is new to me.
So this is obviously these definitions, these things change all the time. But I've heard that they're categorically white because they achieve their achievement level in academics and in life and things like that. Their income levels are typically higher. Asian American income levels are higher, I believe, on average than white American income levels. They're basically at the top. So because of that, even though they're technically a minority, they were given the white treatment. White.
You're right.
So-
I just realized how right you are, because even with as far as admissions to colleges,
Yes.
they're discriminated against where other minorities are not. They're giving an extra.
Yeah, so that what's that program that
I forget the name.
I can never remember the admissions program that they do where they want to give certain minorities bonus points basically for
Right.
being minority because they want to demographically be
increase
correct
their
in the school.
populace in the student body.
Well, one problem they see in these schools is that these very high level academic schools is that too many Asians are there.
That's right.
So their demographic are off, and so they have to penalize Asians,
and AKA discriminate against them. But go
and
ahead.
they discriminate against Asians more than even white people because again they're achieving at a higher level than white
good
people
point.
generally. It's anyway. So I say all that just to say that a lot of the racism and the structural racism that they claim is there, if there is any in our society, is kind of against Asians already, and that's a leftist thing that they're doing.
But that's why progressives then have to make a pitch to show we're not anti-Asian, because look at here, we're about to name another hate law that are directed against Asian Americans.
Well,
So-
first of all, I'm Asian, and I am. I didn't don't know if you know this, Cleve. You probably do. You can see me.
I can't see you.
And I am Asian.
Okay.
Caucasian.
Okay.
And I hail from Caucasia,
Okay.
and so I understand where they're coming from.
right.
But obviously, it's an opportunity here to segment another group, segment another minority,
Yeah.
and hopefully win bonus points. It's all a ruse to break people into groups and then try to appeal to those groups individually.
And there's also the other thing they're doing through this. They're not going to come out with some hate crimes laws for hate crimes against Asians. This is their next
Specifically.
thing. Yeah. And what it will do, David, it will again allow them to further continue their trend of federalizing crime, taking laws out of the hands of local municipalities and states and putting it in, because they'll be able to say that, hey, you didn't investigate this right, so the federal government now is going to come in and we're going to investigate it as a hate crime.
Well, and about this shooting, this terrible shooting, it doesn't seem like, from what I have seen of it, that it was racially motivated.
That's not what the guy said. The shooter himself
seems
said.
like it was religiously motivated, if anything.
In a perverted sort of way.
In a pervertedly, yes, of course, religiously motivated. He attacked these massage parlors because they were a temptation to him.
And he was feeling such deep guilt and shame that he took it out upon, in his words, the people who were causing him to feel this way.
Yeah. So I don't think that seems like a race thing. Obviously, I don't know everything.
Of course it's a race
about
thing.
everybody.
I mean, seriously, now somebody will say, David, don't you understand? He only feels that way about Asian women. In other words, therefore, whether or not he says it was for that reason, it's still a hate crime
I don't know.
against Asian women. You know what I'm saying?
Look, to some people, everything is a race thing.
Yes, that's the progressive movement.
So it has to be, because it's the agenda. Now, I don't know. I mean, maybe it is. Doesn't seem like it is. Maybe it is. I really don't know. But I certainly don't think that the continued push to make everything about race in our country is a good idea. It's a bad idea.
But that's the way the progressive have gotten their whole agenda done. It's by making it about race. President Biden has come out in support, surprise, surprise, in changing the filibuster rule in the Senate, calling out the chamber to adapt back to its old standard of making members virtually speak on the floor to delay action on the bill. Arkansas Senator Tom Cotton was on Fox News' America's Newsroom to say that he believes some Democrats would not vote to change the rules or for the rule change. He said all the Senate Democrats would have to vote yes, and here's his statement on that.
I don't think they're going to push around someone like Joe Manchin, who has said he respects the traditions of the Senate. He, like me, wants to protect the interests of workers in West Virginia.
Okay, so in other words, good old Joe, and there was one other gal, Democrat, I can read her name, who indicated they don't want to change
Arizona.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But my point is, what say you about this? Is good old Joe going to prove to be finally that moderate Democrat that you and I have been looking for years in this liberal Democrat Party?
Yeah, I think that I don't think he's going to go for it.
Okay.
I think he's going to stand strong. In fact, I don't think that I think because they know he won't. You have to realize that a lot of times these votes and these things that they do are predetermined.
Yeah.
In other words, they check around and they poll everybody in private before they ask them to vote in public.
They even tell some of the members you can vote against it because we got enough. You know what I'm saying? So you can go on
right.
record.
So they're going to know whether or not Joe Manchin is going to go for this, and if he'll go for it, they'll bring it up for a vote. If he's not going to go for it, they won't even try to do it. That's what I think. And I think that in private he would probably say, no, I'm not for it.
Do you know what you're saying though? I mean, do you realize why the Democrats want to remove this filibuster rule, what that would do for the rest of their agenda and the stuff they're getting from the House?
Yes.
It literally would guarantee that anything the House passes, the Senate will confirm. I mean, yes,
it would. So Joe Manchin, he's going to lose his job as a senator if he does some of this stuff. Now, how will they compensate him?
See, that's the ticket.
So
that's the ticket. Now
maybe they could offer him something.
Maybe
that would make him say, "Yeah, I'll give up my Senate job because I'm gonna get voted out if I do this stuff. But you'll make me diplomat to Bermuda or something."
Oh, look what they did for Buttigieg. I mean, what they can do now, controlling both houses and the presidency, they can say, "Yeah, Joe, you probably are going to get, West Virginia's going to kick you out if you put down the filibuster rule. However, you'll be the next whatever." Okay. In other words, you'll be guaranteed. So I hate to say this.
I wonder if he'll believe him. I wonder if he'll trust him.
I hate to say this because this is sounding cynical and it really sounds like I'm really condemning Joe, but I don't believe there's a moderate Democrat in the Congress or in the Senate. I don't believe that. I hear about
only self-interested ones.
When it comes down to voting, they all toe the line. And so I think, Joe, we're going to finally find out this veil of modern Democrat that he's carried and given hope to our side so many times, it's been blown.
I mean, I do think that he and Kristen Sinema from Arizona mostly Joe Manchin, though, are the ones who are holding back the nuttiest parts of the Democrat agenda because, again, a lot of the stuff they're not going to try to get through the Senate unless they know that they're going to get it.
You said that, but I'm thinking, they've got some pretty nutty parts of their agenda already passed, despite these moderate people being in there.
Well, yes. So, but see, the stimulus, that's something that Joe Manchin can sell to his constituents as helping them. So that's a little different. The stimulus bill, they call it a stimulus bill, was really just an omnibus wish list for the left. That had pretty packaging. So he could get away with that. Some of this stuff,
it had money in it for people. That's how he got away with it.
Yes, some of this stuff is not gonna do that. Like tax hikes.
No.
I don't know that they're going to be able to increase taxes. I don't know that they're going to be able to get the Equality Act. They're going to increase taxes.
Yes, they are. Yes, they're definitely going to do that. If they have to do a Me Too thing on Joe Manchin to get him to go along, I'm only half kidding. They're going to get the tax raise. That's one of the big things, besides all the other big things that came in that the Democrats have planned. Remove the Trump tax cuts and do the biggest tax increase that we've seen in a long time. So they're going to do that. So here's the thing, and I sound so pessimistic, but
You do.
I think we got to be honest.
You're bumming me out, Cleve.
I think we got to be honest about what we're up against. Now, as the Democrats call for changes to the filibuster rules in the Senate, Senator Lindsey Graham told Fox News as he was on Hannity that changing that tradition still won't help the Democrats move their priorities. And he says, here's why.
You can't do anything without unanimous consent that matters. And to have a quorum, you got to have 51 people present, and the vice president doesn't count. So if they did this, we could really shut down the entire Senate because we just won't show up.
That's what Mitch McConnell says he would do. In other words, what he's saying is, hey, you need a quorum to do anything, and we won't allow you to have it. We will just block everything that way, which is, by the way, Democrats have done that, things like that before as well. So what do you think about that?
Do what you got to do, Lindsey. Seriously, I mean, if that's a tactic they can use, then they better do it.
Now, you know what the media is going to say to that? Obstructionists and
do nothing, Congress.
So at that point, the GOP will have to prove to me they can stand up against the media, and they hadn't proven this to me since Trump that they could do that. So that this is going to be interesting, but it may be the only way to stop it. So my prediction, and you can hold me wrong, is that number one, we're going to find out Joe Manchin is not the moderate savior that we thought he was going to be, and number two, we're going to find out just what kind of spines the GOP actually has or doesn't have. And going by the past, I'm not too optimistic.
I am optimistic.
I'm glad.
Look, I'm not sitting here thinking that everything's good, everything's fine. Things are bad.
Yeah.
The country's rough. The culture is in a tailspin. Mm-hmm. The government is not good.
Yeah.
Policies are not good. But I still think that we have and the margins are close enough that we can hold back a little bit of this stuff long enough to change control of Congress.
And I'm holding you to that. And I actually believe that. When I say I'm pessimistic about some of the things that the GOP say they're going to do, that they should have done a long time ago because they didn't do it when they had the power to do it. So I kind of agree with you. As a matter of fact, I'll go this far, David. I actually believe the majority of people in this country agree with you. I believe that the only reason why the majority of the people in this country are not being represented is that we got a minority now that's in power, and I believe they stole it. So they're literally imposing upon America not the will of the people, but the will of this elite minority who now has the power.
But things are going badly, and I think most people would think that. I mean, a lot of people love the stimulus check showing up in their account, but people see what's going on the border and the disaster that is, and all the people coming in and the kids in cages. The cages that Joe built, by the way,
But the media won't call
are now
cages.
filled by Joe.
Yeah.
3 times the number of children in these facilities than were ever there under Trump. The border's bad. If they raise taxes, Cleve, you say that's going to go through.
Oh, yeah.
People don't like that.
Well,
So that's not going to be popular. The tax cuts were very popular.
right. The problem is what you're saying is this. People are not going to like it. As a matter of fact, in an ordinary circumstance, I would say everything the Democrats are doing is going to get them tossed out. Then there's that little bit of election reform bill that they're putting forth.
Well, that's another thing they haven't gotten through yet, and that I don't know that they're going to get through. They can't get it through.
I'm going to say this. I'm believing it will not get through by the grace of God, but I'm going to say if it does get through, that takes care of all the other objections you made, because they will be elected no matter what if that gets through. I'm just telling you, if that gets through, this election bill that they put up there, the will of the people will never be properly expressed again. And the Democrats will get what they want, power in perpetuity. So that's got to be stopped.
You're just a ray of sunshine, Cleve.
No, here's why I'm talking this way, and I really mean this. You and I, again, our conservatism is based on our faith as well as our understanding of the Constitution and what it really means, okay? And I'm just going to put it out there. God is going to have to do something that only He can do to thwart and frustrate. Don't get me wrong. I believe we need to do everything we can. But, David, I believe the X factor has always been God. And but for God, we probably would have been sunk. Hillary Clinton would have been president for 2 terms, replaced by an even more radical progressive. So were it not for him, we would already be sunk. I'm just merely saying that we need to understand that we need to do what we can. We need to fight in every way we can. But ultimately, it's going to have to be God. I mean, that's what I see. And that makes me optimistic and hopeful, not pessimistic. I'm just pessimistic about people on our side doing it on our own. All right. At least 21 states, and I'm hoping this is a good sign, are suing the Biden administration over that election decision he made, by the way, to halt construction on the Keystone XL pipeline. Now, Montana is one of those states, and the Attorney General of Montana is Austin Knudsen. And he tells why President Biden doesn't really have the authority to turn that pipeline off.
Foreign and interstate commerce regulation is a power reserved to Congress, not to the president. President Obama had his chance to veto this back in 2011. This project was approved by Congress. Steve, only Congress can undo its own act. Joe Biden doesn't get to step in now 10 years later, literally 10 years later, and try to veto this project.
So therefore, again, it's going to go to the courts. And I think they're right. I think they have, if the courts judge this constitutionally, Biden usurps authority in in ending this pipeline.
Be interested to see how that goes and what happens, because from what I understand, what Biden did was get rid of the permits that's done by the executive branch, like deny basically permits to build this stuff. So the
pipeline,
in
though,
other words,
the pipeline itself was something that had to be done, that was agreed to through Congress, and the president can't just overthrow a congressional action.
Well,
like that.
I mean, he can decide not to do it, can't he? I mean, we've seen that happen for various laws.
Things that
the execution of these things.
Executive orders he can instantly do. It's under the purview of the executive branch. This was not under the purview of the executive branch, what they're doing right now.
Yeah.
And they're suing it based upon the fact
he's failing to execute the law. He's just I see what their argument is, and I agree with them. Yeah. I'm just thinking, what the way that the government is structured now, I wonder if Joe Biden has to do anything that Congress makes a law about.
Right. I hear what you're saying.
Because we've seen, Obama did this with DACA, just kind of deciding that he's not going to enforce immigration law.
Right.
The executive branch has way too much power.
Yeah.
And I think this might be one of those.
This is why the
situations.
Democrats wanted Obama to have all that power. They had anticipated Hillary Clinton and whoever followed her to use
they
that.
love centralized power.
Yeah. But the problem is it didn't make it to the courts, and the court, as it's presently constituted, it's different than it has ever been. Again, that's no guarantee. But this is what I said we're going to have to do. The states and the governors, and they're doing it, are going to have to mount whatever a battle that they can do, at least slow things down or to not just roll over. So that's happening. Ron DeSantis is doing it, and other governors I think are catching on, is that, we're the last bastion of liberty at this point in time in our nation's history. Mm-hmm. So I like to see the governors getting together and doing stuff. And, this is the way it's going to happen. Now, don't get me wrong. I do believe that Biden's going to come after the states that are resisting him. And so it'll be interesting to see what they do about
in
that.
Montana, he's going to have to find them first. That's hard to do in Montana. Wide open spaces out there.
If anyone wants to hear this edition of Mere Conservatism again, they can do it anytime.
Yeah, Facebook, YouTube, or, of course, on Apple Podcasts. Check it out.
All right. I'm pessimistic. David's optimistic. Together, we, I think, comprise a lot of the folks' feelings in the American public. So just keep on fighting. Have a great day. We'll see you later on for another edition of Mere Conservatism. Bye-bye.